What's going on here?
Hey, how's it going, Alan?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I was looking for you. I've been kind of monkeying around here. There you are. Okay. You're the only one.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Um, so how is it going?
It's going good. I was actually really happy with what I got on the test.
Good, good. Yeah, I mean, if you're going through the chapters and reading and doing the quiz stuff, I think it'll come out okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I felt like from getting that result, I know how to in the future approach your continuing test now,
yeah,
so
yeah. So we have another test this week.
yeah.
So it'll be slightly longer, but you'll have more time.
Gotcha.
Same kind of stuff. Questions from the old quizzes, plus maybe a few new ones thrown in there, and you'll have to write a little bit.
Okay.
And so that's it. I was gonna say some things not to study. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
can take.
So on the chemistry chapter, that's chapter 2. I'm not going to have you memorize any chemical structure or anything.
Okay.
So don't memorize the list of elements. Don't memorize the structure of this chemical or that chemical, but kind of know some definitions, kind of terminology. So, like, what is a protein? Why is it important?
Okay.
What is a nucleic acid? Why is it important? What is water? Why is it important? Um, what is an atom? Why do we kind of have to know about atoms? Um, so it's not going to be. I won't have any diagrams of chemicals, but I would more ask you kind of definitions and why do we have to know about these chemicals? Some are commonly used in the body.
Gotcha.
Let's see, chapter 3. That's really a lot of stuff. Um, Here, um, again, kind of what is a cell? Why is it important? And then where it lists the cytoplasm and all those organelles and things like that. Um, the kind of the 3 or 4 really important things are the plasma membrane, the nucleus, maybe the mitochondria and the ribosome.
Okay. So
But
kind of the basic stuff, not like like the basic. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Just
yeah, what I'm probably not going to ask you are things like, you know, name, centrioles, or I won't go into a big description on facilitated diffusion, but that the plasma membrane controls what goes in and out of cells.
okay.
Some things can move through, some things need a pour or a pump. Um,
Are you gonna have a question like you did in the quiz about like you're gonna show like a diagram of the skin and then there's gonna be the different levels and you're gonna say which one is this one, like the epidermis or the dermis or
Probably no diagrams.
okay,
Okay, that would, for the people who are going to go into biology majors, they're going to get the diagrams.
gotcha.
For for you, like the skin, I'd like you to know the skin is a membrane. So that means it has 2 types of tissues, 2 layers, but I wouldn't give you a diagram. you should know kind of the function of the skin. So it gives you a, oh gosh, what page is on it? Page 91, there's this list of functions. And then there's a big section on body temperature. And that's a homeostasis and a negative feedback. That's our first real big examples of that. There is a section on what's in the epidermis and what's in the dermis. But I won't give you a diagram though. I might ask you to explain it, or I might give you a question about it, but I won't. The diagram is more biology majors.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, when you put that up on the test, I actually did remember from when I learned biology in high school, because one of them, I think the answer was the dermis, and then one of them was, it's not the sweat gland, but I think it starts in the O maybe, obstacle gland or something. I don't know, it was a different gland.
Sebaceous gland?
Yeah, and I actually got it right. So I was like,
okay. Well, I mean, if you had a question on a quiz, that could show up. Okay. So look over your old quiz. Go just run through them a couple times. There could be some new stuff there. Like on chapter 4, I'm not going to have you identify tissues based on a picture. Okay, I might ask you about what, why is an epithelial tissue an epithelial tissue? Where would you find an epithelial tissue? I might ask you about the 4 big types of tissues: epithelial, connective, muscle, or nerve tissue. And it would be kind of generally, what do those do?
And now, speaking of this topic, I did have a question. One of the questions on the quiz, I specifically remember, and I kept getting wrong a few times, it was, what type of muscle would an athlete use, or something like that?
Okay.
And I think it was fast twitch, right? But then I don't think the right answer was fast twitch, so I was confused,
Yeah.
I wrote it down because I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, no, this was it. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. How do muscle cells produce movement? Now, in the book, it says they they contract and they extend, I think.
Yeah, the contraction is the movement. They're extendable or extensive. They can be extended, but they produce movement through contraction. Let's see let me get through the right spot in the book.
Okay, I think that's the wording of that kind of threw me off, because I kept getting that one wrong.
So if you go to like page 86, it'll say muscle tissues consist of cells that are specialized to shorten or contract, resulting in movement. But they'll also tell you, and maybe somewhere else, that muscles can be stretched or extended. But that's passive when they do that. When they're producing movement, they're contracting. Okay. So you have like you have your biceps on one side, that produces movement by contracting, and that's when it gets hard. And then on the other side, you have your triceps, and that produces the opposite movement. But when it does, it extends the biceps. Okay. So you usually have muscles on either side of a limb. One contracts to move it one way, then the other contracts to move it back.
Gotcha. And I guess when you just say contract and contract, I was thinking extend and contract, or maybe I'm doing it through. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, but like the triceps, when it contracts, it extends. Yep, and so it's getting, the muscle itself is getting shorter, but because of the way it's connected to the bones, it'll extend the elbow. This is getting beyond what we need for this chapter. But, and let me say, there's also lots of other stuff in this chapter that I won't ask you. So I'm not going to ask you, I won't give you a picture of tissues and say, what is this, or label these parts. I won't do that. And then all this organ system stuff, it's we'll go into one or two organ systems later.
Okay.
We're doing the skin right now in a very brief way. We'll do the nervous system and some cardiovascular stuff. But I don't want you to memorize that. So just know what an organ system is. Okay, it's a group of organs that work together. Okay, what else here? Let me go to my next page. Oh, same in chapter 3. There's all this stuff on metabolism, and in chapter 3, towards the end of chapter 3, there's all this stuff on how cells produce energy, these metabolic pathways.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to give you a diagram with metabolic pathways. You should know that inside the mitochondria are metabolic pathways that require oxygen to get energy. Okay. And then in the cytoplasm, you have anaerobic pathways. That's plenty. Okay. All right. So it'll be slightly longer, but you'll have another 20 minutes.
Sounds good. That's perfect. Yeah, I actually had probably last time maybe 12 or 15 minutes left over. I was just checking over my answers and got my short answer done. So, yeah.
Okay. You'll have to write a paragraph or two somewhere. But pretty similar to the first one.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, other than that, since it's a test week, I don't think I saw any homework. Do we? We don't have any homework.
There's a quiz. There's a quiz on 4, and then there's a little form on skin cancer. So it's like 2 short videos, a minute or two. And I did let me share something. In the previous, let's see, is it here? Maybe it's there. No, maybe it's here. Can you see the protecting DNA thing?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so in the previous Zoom meeting, which I don't think anybody was in, I did a little thing about skin color and skin cancer.
Okay.
So everybody, even the palest people, in their upper layer of their skin, they have these cells called melanocytes. Okay, and these melanocytes make melanin. It's a brownish, blackish pigment, and they can distribute it to other cells. Okay, some people have really active melanocytes, and so they have dark skin color.
Yeah.
But even guys as pale as me have melanocytes. Okay, mine just aren't doing anything until I go out in the sun. If I go out in the sun enough, the sun will stimulate those melanocytes, and I'll start making melanin, and I'll get a little darker. Not a lot darker, but a little darker.
This is going to be the short answer.
Well, I get a little darker. And that will help protect my skin from UV. But I have pale skin, so during the midday when UV rays are high, or if I go down to Florida or someplace even more in the tropics, I will get sunburn because my ancestors are from the northern part of Europe. So it's really important for me to avoid being exposed to the sun at that time of day, or to use sunscreens or sunblock. If I don't, let's see, will this work? If I don't, ultraviolet light can change my DNA. It can cause if you see the kink in the DNA molecule here,
Yeah.
ultraviolet light can cause the DNA to form this kink, and that can be repaired, but often it's repaired wrong. So it can damage my DNA and change the sequence. Most times that has no effect on cells. Either it's repaired normally or it's a piece of DNA that's not important. But sometimes that can produce altered proteins, or it might even kill the cell, or even worse than killing the cell is it can affect the genes that control cell division and mitosis. And then the cell might copy itself too often. And this is what leads to cancer. Okay,
Really?
It's ultraviolet light that leads to skin cancer. That's the only cause. And so that's why melanin is good. The more melanin you have, that's better. And if you're pale skinned, blue eyes, have freckles or moles, that means you're you have high susceptibility to UV damage and you're more at risk for skin cancer. Okay, skin cancers are the most common types of cancer, okay, in the US and worldwide. Um, Fortunately, most skin cancers are pretty treatable and pretty mild and spread slowly, okay? So the most common is called this basal cell carcinoma. There's like 4 million cases in the US a year. Okay, it results from chronic exposure to the sun. So people get this on their nose, on their cheeks, on their ears, on the back of their neck, sometimes on their hands and arms. And these are raised bumps that spread really slowly. My dad used to get them. And he would never go in, but my mom would say, "You've got another one, you've got another one." And he'd go to the doctor and he'd just slice them off. Okay, so rarely spread. He lived till he was 90. You know, it wasn't really a problem. There's another squamous cell carcinoma that's slightly more likely to spread. Again, pretty common, million cases per year in the US, but still it's pretty rare where that's going to cause people a big problem. The one that's a big problem is melanoma. Much less common, 90,000 new cases per year. But the bad news, it occurs in young adults more often than in older adults, and it can be the result of more likely severe sunburns. It is more likely to spread, and it's more likely to spread quickly. However, you know, it's still not like lung cancer or colon cancer. Most people, if they go in early, this is treatable and they'll survive. Okay, and so
And that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being most mild and 10 being the worst, that would be the worst one, right?
this is the worst skin cancer,
Okay.
but there are cancers that are way worse.
No, right.
You know, if you would look at the worst cancers, they would be things like some of the lung cancers, pancreatic cancer, some of the myelomas and the leukemias are much more likely to kill you and kill you quickly.
Yeah,
So
isn't leukemia up there? And like it's up there. I know that it's pretty deadly.
some of the leukemias, some leukemias are treatable and they're improving. I just had a friend that had leukemia last year. He got a transplant and he's doing pretty well. So that
Nice.
used to be dead in 6 months, and he's going on a year. So anyway, with melanomas usually arise from pre-existing moles. You got any moles?
I have some birthmarks, but I don't have any moles.
Okay, I don't know about birthmarks, but moles, if you have moles, you got to watch your moles. And so if moles start changing, if they become more asymmetric, if their border starts to become irregular, or their color changes, or they start getting larger, that's an indication that there's a chance that that's a cancer. And melanomas are more often come from moles. And so the earlier you can get these, the much better. Early, if you get them early, you just cut them off and then that's it. But if they spread, then you've got to go through chemotherapy or radiation or some of these immunotherapies that can get to the cancer cells wherever they go. So early detection is really important with cancer, and particularly skin cancers. So and that there's a forum this week is on skin cancer, your cancer risk. So
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I'd like to know more about that and read up on it.
yeah. So if you're at high risk, if you have blonde hair, if you have blue eyes, if you have freckles or moles, if you have red hair, those people are at high risk.
Just for any cancer or just skin cancer in itself?
Skin cancers, for skin cancers. But you know, even if you're dark skinned, you can get skin cancer. You know, like you can be very dark skinned and you can be an African American, but if you get chronic exposure to enough sun, you can develop skin cancer. And so they're much less likely to get melanoma because they're protected against severe sunburns, but they can still wind up with the less severe types of skin cancer. So you know, it can affect everybody. But if your ancestors are from the northern part of Europe, you're more likely to get it.
Gotcha.
You know, so, okay. So let me get rid of this share. Okay. All right, any questions?
No, I think I'm be ready to prepare for the test and know what I need to do and look at.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it'll open Friday again. It'll stay open till Saturday night. So
Okay, I'll probably try to just get it out the way Friday night. That'll be the
yeah,
best.
then you have the whole weekend.
Yeah. Plus, I have all
Yeah,
my other classes, so I mean, yeah, that'll work out good.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, you know, have the week is busier because they have other classes.
Yeah.
And so, but then your weekend is pretty short if you're taking the test on Saturday night.
Yeah. No, you got to worry about that and have nothing else to do. You got to make time for that.
Okay. All right. Well, I will hopefully talk to you next week,
Yep.
and we'll let it go from there unless you have another question.
Nope. If I do, I will email you.
Okay. All right. I'll be checking.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Have a good one.
You too. See you later.